With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Our top stories.
Recycling tree made by St. Kitts Nevis designer Vaughn Anslin on display at the Global Sustainable Islands Summit 2025 in St. Kitts.
OECS countries and regional partners advance investment facilitation initiatives in Miami. Joint services conduct extensive search for missing person on Nevis. Police address false report incident.
The Caribbean Tourism Organization confirms St. Kitts and Nevis's tourism minister as a speaker for Caribbean Week 2025.
OECS Director General Dr. Didicus Jules was among many high-level representatives of international parties calling for global action on biodiversity on the UN's Convention on Biological Diversity's website. Ministers responsible for trade meet to determine the region's future in trade and export at the 6th Council of Ministers trade meeting. And the Global Green Growth Institute, or GGGI, strengthens regional collaboration at the 3rd Caribbean NDCFI Investment Forum in Grenada.
Internationally, Trump calls Putin absolutely crazy after more Ukraine strikes. Now, the details.
Global Sustainable Islands Summit 2025, co-hosted with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, kicked off on May 25 and runs until May 30, 2025 at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort. The event brings together leaders, climate science experts, innovators, change makers, and the youth to accelerate sustainable development across nations. One of the main highlights of the summit is a superb work of art by Nevision artist and designer Vaughn Anslin. Anslin told WINN FM that he was pleased to bring to fruition the plan of the summit's organizers to have a tree depicting recycling, and also shared with the media house his ideology behind the masterpiece.
So basically, the summit organizers asked me to create a tree to represent recycling. And at first, I really was just going to do the generic thing, is to put a structure and then hang some bottles on it, or, just something like that, make a tree out of bottles. But then I changed my entire idea and said, well, why not create it with using the recycling symbol and have a message within the message? So basically, the recycling symbol is green and lush and growing with flowers and grass. That symbolizes what happens when we recycle. And then the tree itself, that represents the things that happens when we don't recycle. Trash, discarded bottles, a dead tree. So one has to interact with the other, and basically the message is, if we don't recycle, we end up with a world full of trash and death and despair, basically. So that's my ideology and thinking behind the tree that I created.
The summit aims to focus on critical challenges and opportunities, including the water and energy nexus, agricultural resilience, advancing geothermal, and recycling, among other areas. Another key contribution to the Global Sustainable Islands Summit 2025 is the rollout of the visionary framework for St. Kitts and Nevis Sustainable Island State Agenda, aimed at ensuring sustainability and climate resilience by 2040 across 7 transformative pillars. The framework, promoted by the Dr. Terence Drew-led government, will showcase innovative solutions, and following its rollout at the summit, is expected to foster global partnerships and help other territories advance their sustainable development goals in the face of the climate crisis.
Representatives from the St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency, SKIPA, along with their counterparts from various ministries of trade and investment promotion agencies across the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, gathered in Miami from May 22nd through 23rd, 2025. The regional event, titled OECS Investment Facilitation Self-Assessments, Strategies to Enhance the Investment Climate and Attract Sustainable Foreign Direct Investment, FID, also attracted notable participation from trade ministries of the Dominican Republic and Guatemala. This convergence marked a significant step forward in the region's efforts to harmonize and elevate investment facilitation in line with the global framework set by the Investment Facilitation for Development Agency, IFDA. The investment facilitation self-assessment represent the foundational stage for countries seeking to implement the provisions of the IFDA effectively. These self-assessments empower participating nations to evaluate their current regulatory frameworks meticulously identify shortcomings relative to the agreement's requirements, and delineate the necessary actions to bridge these gaps. Participating countries also categorize the various investment facilitation measures into implementation phases, specifying technical assistance and capacity building needs essential for realizing compliance with the IFDA's mandates. By September 2024, 6 OECS member states, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and St. Kitts and Nevis, had successfully completed their investment facilitation self-assessment exercises. The Miami workshop aimed to build on these accomplishments by reviewing and finalizing the categorization of IFDA provisions for formal notification to the World Trade Organization (WTO). In addition, the forum provided an invaluable platform to strategize on the implementation roadmap and formulate actionable recommendations designed to enhance each country's institutional capacities. The overarching goal extends beyond merely increasing FDI inflows. It emphasizes attracting high-quality, sustainable investments aligned with national development priorities. The IFDA itself stands as a landmark achievement in the multilateral investment landscape. Concluded by 112 WTO members on July 6, 2023, it crystallizes over 5.5 years of preparatory work and nearly 3 years of intensified negotiations. The agreement is meticulously engineered to foster a more transparent, efficient, and predictable investment environment worldwide. In particular, it is tailored to support developing and least developed countries, assisting them in securing foreign investment that are not only voluminous but also impactful, ensuring contributions to sustainable development objectives. Significantly, the IFDA focuses on technical and administrative measures that enhance investment facilitation while deliberately excluding more contentious subjects such as market access, investment protection, and investor-state dispute settlement mechanisms. This pragmatic approach significantly accelerated consensus building among diverse WTO members, enabling the agreement's swift advancement. The regional discussions and outcomes from the Miami event underscore the fervent commitment of OECS member states and their regional partners to align their investment policies with international best practices embodied by the IFDA. Such alignment is expected to bolster investor confidence, streamline bureaucratic processes, and promote regulatory coherence. The IFDA's ultimate promise lies in its capacity to assist these countries in attracting more foreign direct investment and nurturing investments that enhance principles of sustainability and responsible business conduct. As St. Kitts and Nevis and other OECS members continue advancing their investment facilitation frameworks, the collaborative spirit demonstrated in Miami provides a beacon of progress. These efforts mark a purposeful stride toward building an investment climate that balances economic growth with sustainable development imperatives, ensuring the region's long-term prosperity. The outcomes of this event will shape the formal notifications to the WTO and guide subsequent national strategies critical to translating the IFD's objectives into tangible benefits on the ground. A coordinated search operation was carried out on Saturday, May 24, 2025 by Joint Services on Nevis, as the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Nevis Division, in collaboration with the St. Kitts Nevis Fire and Rescue Services, the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force, and the Nevis Disaster Management Department, intensified efforts to locate Trevion Rogers, a resident of Potworks, who has been missing since Saturday, May 17, 2025. The operation spanned challenging terrains across the Westbury and Fountain area and nearby localities. Under the leadership of Inspector Charles and senior officers from the engaged agencies, search teams combed through challenging topographies, including guts, banks, caves, and dense bushland, in areas such as Westbury, Fountain, Spring Hill, Hog Valley, Shaws Road, and Gardeners. Several abandoned properties were also meticulously examined as part of the comprehensive effort. The engagement extended beyond official agencies. Family members and friends of Rogers actively participated, underscoring the communal urgency of the search. Technological support played a crucial role in the operation, with drone technology deployed to enhance surveillance and coverage of the expansive areas. Corporal Wallace and Constable Ali skillfully operated these drones to supplement the ground search. Alongside physical searches, house-to-house inquiries were conducted to gather intelligence or tips that could assist in locating the missing man. Despite the extensive scope of the search, which commenced at 6:21 a.m. and concluded at 11:14 a.m. on the day, Rogers remains unlocated. The police force reiterated their unwavering commitment to continuing the investigation and providing closure to Rogers' family. They have issued a call to the public urging anyone with pertinent information regarding Rogers' whereabouts to come forward and contact the nearest police station promptly. In a related matter, the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force has addressed concerns regarding a recent false missing persons report involving Ivel Jr. St. Val. Investigations conducted by the Criminal Investigation Department, CID, in conjunction with the Immigration Department confirmed that St. Val was never missing but had voluntarily left the Federation by boat, setting course for St. Thomas via St. Martin. The police force took this opportunity to caution the public about the profound implications of filing false or misleading reports. Such actions divert vital resources away from genuine emergencies and undermine the effectiveness of law enforcement efforts. Public trust and the efficient deployment of personnel rely heavily on truthful and responsible reporting. Authorities reminded citizens that making malicious or false reports is a criminal offense and those found culpable will face appropriate legal consequences. The police force emphasized the need for community cooperation in upholding law and order throughout the Federation, urging everyone to engage responsibly with law enforcement agencies for the collective good. The diligent coordination seen in the search for Rogers reflects a determined communal resolve, exemplifying the comprehensive mobilization of resources and personnel in the face of adversity. Meanwhile, the assertion against false reporting highlights the critical balance between public vigilance and accountability essential to effective policing and community safety.
St. Kitts and Nevis's Minister of Tourism, Civil Aviation, International Transport, Employment and Labor and Urban Development, Marsha Henderson, will be addressing delegates during Caribbean Week in New York. Minister Henderson is expected to share her insights on leading tourism with purpose when the forum gets underway from June 1 to 6, 2025. An attorney at law turned tourism extraordinaire, Minister Henderson has cemented her place in the world's tourism landscape. The Caribbean Tourism Organization, CTO, heralded Henderson as a transformative force in Caribbean tourism. Quote, since taking office in 2022, she has championed sustainable development, cultural preservation, and community engagement as pillars of her tourism strategy, positioning St. Kitts and Nevis as a premier global destination. Under her leadership, the Twin Island nation has seen significant growth in visitor arrivals, revenue, and opportunities for local communities. Her work blends a strategic vision with deep national pride, driving a tourism model rooted in responsible practices and a long-term impact, the organization shared in Henderson's profile. The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis has been marked as a premier tourism destination. Henderson continues to be pivotal in ensuring the destination receives record-breaking tourism accolades and award-winning campaigns with a strong focus on sustainability. Minister Henderson joins the forum alongside regional colleagues, including Cardigan Connor, Anguilla's Minister of Health, Sports and Tourism, and Carlos James, Minister of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development and Culture for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The delegation will be celebrating Caribbean Week 2025 under the theme Caribbean Resilience, Crafting Tomorrow's Tourism. The events on the calendar include sessions on artificial intelligence and hospitality innovation, the launch of the Caribbean Tourism Organization Reimagine Plan, Media Marketplace and Caribbean Media Awards, Caribbean Women's Leadership Dinner and Awards, forums on airline and cruise connectivity, sessions on the orange economy and creative industries, a next-generation showcase for Caribbean youth, an allied member session on emerging markets, the relaunch of the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Hospitality Assured program, and the Caribbean Cultural Showcase, a consumer event celebrating the region's music, art, and flavors.
In regional news, OECS Director General Dr. Didicus Jules was among many high-level representatives of international parties calling for global action on biodiversity on the UN's Convention on Biological Diversity's website. Ministers responsible for trade meet to determine the region's future in trade and export at the 6th Council of Ministers Trade Meeting. And the Global Green Growth Institute, or GGGI, strengthens regional collaboration at the 3rd Caribbean NDCFI Investment Forum in Grenada. In our first story, the OECS joined the United Nations to observe the International Day for Biological Diversity 2025. OECS Director General Dr. Didicus Jules delivered a featured address via the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity's website. Dr. Jules was one of many high-level representatives of international parties and organizations to do so. The OECS Director General issued a clarion call for global action on biodiversity conservation.
On this International Day for Biodiversity, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS, stands with the global community in celebrating the breathtaking diversity of life that sustains our planet. But today is more than a celebration. It is a clarion call, a call to action, to courage, and to collective responsibility. Biodiversity is not an abstract ideal. It is the lifeblood of our economies, our health, our culture, and our climate resilience. The 2025 theme, Harmony with Nature and Sustainable Development, captures the essence of the OECS vision, a future in which people and planet thrive together. As one of the world's most vital biodiversity hotspots, the Caribbean, especially the OECS, is rich in unique and irreplaceable species. Yet we face a sobering truth. More than 200 species in our region are critically endangered, many on the verge of extinction. The loss is not only ecological, it is economic, it is cultural, and it is moral. The OECS Commission, in collaboration with our member states and strategic partners such as the European Union, remains steadfast in fulfilling the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Kunming-Montreal Global Diversity Framework, and the St. George's Declaration of Principles for Environmental Sustainability 2040. Let us act with urgency, purpose, and solidarity. Because harmony with nature is not a distant dream. It is the only future worth striving for.
Grenada hosts the 6th Council of Ministers meeting on trade. The event focused on strengthening regional trade policies, advancing economic integration, and addressing trade challenges. Grenadian Minister for Foreign Affairs, Trade and Export Development, the Honorable Joseph Andal, notes trade policy has always been an integral part of the OECS's vision for regional integration.
The premise for gathering at this Council of Ministers is found in the revised Treaty of Bastia, establishing the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Economic Union, signed in 2010. This revised treaty advances the purposes and functions of the OECS towards deeper levels of cooperation, commonality, unity, solidarity, harmony, and singleness. A key objective of this, in the context of the Protocol of Eastern Caribbean Economic Union, is economic growth, development, and international competitiveness of the region by the convergence and coordination of economic policies of the Protocol member states.
According to Minister Andal, as a result of the current geopolitical atmosphere, the revised Treaty of Basseterre is even more relevant to the strength of the region's trade and survival of our industries than in 2010 when the document was revised.
The now 12 full and associate member states of the OECS are small, even micro, island developing states and territories that are highly vulnerable to the endogenous consequences of our small size and to various exogenous shocks that we have limited capacity to shield our countries from or to deflect impacts away from us. Structurally, we are highly open economies, dependent on external trade and investment for our economic growth and development. Our economic base is narrow, and our trade is concentrated on a few goods and services to limited sources and destinations.
To view the entire opening ceremony of the 6th Council of Trade Ministers, please visit the OECS YouTube channel or Facebook page. Also in Grenada, the Global Green Growth Institute, or GGGI, engaged stakeholders and partners during the 3rd Caribbean Nationally Determined Contribution Finance Initiative, or NDCFI, Investment Forum and Marketplace. The event organized by the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, or OECS, is aimed at promoting solutions to the region's climate challenges. Regional leaders exchanged ideas on innovative climate financing mechanisms and projects. According to GGGI's representative Daniel Munoz-Smith, quote, "The forum provided a key platform for countries and partners across the Eastern Caribbean to come together and shape the financing strategies needed to meet their climate goals. Whether through innovative housing solutions, support to green entrepreneurs, or our technical expertise in finance mobilization and project development." End quote. The three-day event set the stage for stronger collaboration in the region to access climate finance and drive sustainable growth across the region. For the full story, please visit our newsroom page on the OECS website.
We now bring you these international reports.
I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all.
That was US President Trump's reaction after Russia unleashed the largest aerial attack of the war on Ukraine overnight into Sunday, killing around a dozen people, including children. Russian missiles and over 300 drones rained down on cities. It marked the third night Ukrainians woke to the sound of Russian aerial attacks, according to its Air Force. In a Truth Social post, Trump said Vladimir Putin had, quote, gone absolutely crazy, and that he was considering new sanctions on Moscow in light of these ongoing strikes. Although Trump also criticised Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that the leader was doing, quote, his country no favours by talking the way he does. In response to these remarks, the Kremlin said Trump and others might be emotionally overloaded, while thanking him for his assistance in launching peace negotiations. The US president's been trying to get both sides to agree to a ceasefire in the 3-year-old war in Ukraine.
We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
The Kremlin said the attacks on Ukraine were directed at military targets and were a response to significant Ukrainian attacks on Russian civilian targets. Zelensky, in a post on X, said Russia can only be constrained by force and called again for additional sanctions on Russia.
He dug for gold, searched for diamonds, sifting the earth for the precious bauxite mineral. And still, Alassane Diallo from Guinea has not found wealth. A poor man from a rich land, his life appears like a broken promise. Scrapping by in the Senegalese capital, picking up debris on the construction site of a luxury apartment block to keep the tin shack back home standing and the family free from hunger.
There are so many multinational companies in my homeland, but no work for us Guineans. It does not feel fair or right.
From Diallo's Télémélé region to Bokeh in Guinea stretches a vast land of more than 41,000 square kilometers. Beneath the forest lies red earth, rich in minerals. Trucks rumble down dirt roads, carrying Guinea's wealth off the continent to build planes, soda cans, even iPhones. Luxuries most people here can't even dream of. So they leave, crossing borders in search of work they cannot find at home. Most of those working in this construction site are from neighboring Guinea. They make up the largest migrant population in Senegal. They're not fleeing war or conflict, but the lack of opportunities at home. In 2020, we met Keita. He says he still remembers the polite smiles of mining officials, flanked by armed security, who told him to leave. He was handed the equivalent of $2,000 for a piece of land the size of 200 football fields. Much of that land mining companies bought remains untouched. Companies have been sitting on assets, choosing speculation over investment in what feels like an increasingly uncertain global market. And so Guinea's military rulers, under sanction and strapped for cash, are taking action. In May, they revoked more than 50 mining licenses, targeting concessions where no real work had begun, and vast resources remained untapped. We reached out to several mining companies that lost their licenses. None were willing to comment on the junta's decision.
Mining companies need to ensure that Guinean nationals and local companies have a greater stake in production and in subcontracting. So they're staking the fact that if you are non-compliant, you would rather leave the sector and make way for other stakeholders who are likely to be compliant and continue investing in the region.
The junta calls it a cleanup, part of a push to attract what it calls serious investors. For this nation, once supported by the Soviet Union, Russia and China now fit that profile, promising to build the facilities Western companies never did. Rising promises for Guineans watching from a distance as people from faraway lands pave the future on soil they can no longer call their own. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, Dakar.
NVIDIA will launch a new and cheaper AI chip for China to avoid US export restrictions. That's according to Reuters sources. They say mass production of the new silicon will begin as early as June. The current H20 chip was effectively banned for sale to China in April. Washington wants to slow the country's development of AI and other technologies. The new product will reportedly use conventional memory instead of the so-called high-bandwidth memory used by some advanced chips. It's expected to be priced at up to $8,000 per unit, well down on the $10,000 to $12,000 for the H20. An NVIDIA spokesperson would only say that the company is still evaluating its options. The sources say an earlier plan to produce a downgraded version of the H20 didn't work out. NVIDIA boss Jensen Huang says the firm's market share in China has plunged from 95% before export curbs kicked in to 50% now. He warned that if restrictions stay in place, more customers will buy chips from Chinese rival Huawei. On Monday, Huang told the Stratocherry podcast that NVIDIA had been forced to walk away from $15 billion in sales. It has also written off more than $5 billion in inventory.
Welcoming fellow leaders to this summit, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim stressed the need for close cooperation in the face of threatened US tariffs. That now was a time for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to be strong.
Underscored by remarkable resilience against a backdrop of increasingly complex and sobering global developments.
China has sent a delegation led by Premier Li Qiang, who visited President Prabowo Subianto of Indonesia on the way here, as Beijing forges closer trade links with Asian neighbors. This region is also looking to strengthen ties with the Middle East.
I feel that there's a lot to be gained, especially from an ASEAN perspective, not from China only, but also from the Middle Eastern countries, and that's just going to result to a positive outcome for ASEAN in any ways.
A delegation from the Gulf Cooperation Council is here for meetings, with trade high on the agenda, but also the continuing war on Gaza.
The atrocities committed against the Palestinian people continue to reflect indifference and double standards. They are a direct result of erosion of sanctity and international law. ASEAN cannot remain silent.
Just as in previous ASEAN summits, the position of Myanmar continues to pose a challenge. Its military leaders have been barred since their armed coup in 2021, and conditions inside the war-torn state have worsened after an earthquake in March. A ceasefire was declared to allow humanitarian assistance, but that is due to expire. Malaysia wants to use its chairmanship of ASEAN this year to broker a lasting peace. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera, Kuala Lumpur.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were:
recycling tree made by St. Kitts Nevis designer Vaughan Anslin on display at the Global Sustainable Islands Summit 2025 in St. Kitts.
OECS countries and regional partners advance investment facilitation initiatives in Miami. Joint services conduct extensive search for missing person on Nevis. Police address false report incident.
The Caribbean Tourism Organization confirms St. Kitts and Nevis's tourism minister as a speaker for Caribbean Week 2025.
OECS Director General Dr. Didicus Jules was among many high-level representatives of international parties calling for global action on biodiversity on the UN's Convention on Biological Diversity's website. Ministers responsible for trade meet to determine the region's future in trade and export at the 6th Council of Ministers Trade Meeting. And the Global Green Growth Institute, or GGGI, strengthens regional collaboration at the 3rd Caribbean NDCFI Investment Forum in Grenada.
Internationally, Trump calls Putin absolutely crazy after more Ukraine strikes. Thank you for listening.